This is North Georgia's News Talk.
WDUN. This girl is on fire.
We'll hear from Georgia men's basketball coach Mark Fox coming up in 30 minutes and 15. We've got tickets to the Gwinnett Gladiators February 1st match to give away. Just ahead, new Georgia Southern football coach Willie Fritz. But I'd like to go on record at 6 minutes after 7, this Monday edition of Game On. Thanks for coming back after that long news break, being back with us. I'd like to go on record and say this. I just got a tweet from a listener that said you didn't mention that Richard Sherman gave them the choke sign. Well, no, because it didn't pertain to what I was talking about his after-game comments. I do not condone the giving of the choke sign. I believe that to be a classless move. That lacks the decorum I would prefer from a professional athlete. And while we're on that same note, and why not stay on it? Everybody else has. Michael Crabtree single-handedly flipped San Francisco's season around. They were a mediocre team until he came back from injury. And then they became a team one play away from going to the Super Bowl. They became a team who made it to the NFC title game 3 years running. So, no, I do not think that Michael Crabtree is a sorry receiver. That a quote from Richard Sherman. He's absolutely not a sorry receiver. A receiver single-handedly flipped a team season. But I'm sure that if we were to hear Michael Crabtree's commentary about Richard Sherman, it would be a little off base too, wouldn't it? As well as off color, I'm sure. I digress, though. It's time to get to a new topic, and that is Georgia Southern football. When Jeff Monken left the program earlier this year to take the job at Army after his team beat Florida in the Swamp, Georgia Southern looking for a head coach that would maintain the traditions that the Eagles had become so accustomed to. And one of those traditions is winning, is being a dominant force in the game of football. And they found their man in Willie Fritz. Willie Fritz, his last 3 coaching tenures spent at Blinn College, Central Missouri, and Sam Houston State. He is a very good coach, 128-56, his college coaching record. And he joins us now at 8 minutes after 7 o'clock on Game On. Coach Fritz, I can't thank you enough. I know you're a busy man, especially with it being the recruiting time for college football. You know, you've been successful at Blinn College, Sam Houston State. You've been successful at Central Missouri. Just pointed all of that out, Coach. And presumably, you're going to be at Georgia Southern. Now, I don't mean to put a lot of pressure on you when I say that, but I want you to tell our listeners, Coach, what are the keys to success in your mind?
Well, you got to have, really good players, really good coaches, and you got to have great team chemistry. If you have those 3 ingredients, you got a chance. And then there's, a lot of other things with organization and a philosophy that you have offensively and defensively in the kicking game, and, and being very consistent, carrying all those things out as well.
You talk philosophy. What is your coaching philosophy?
Well, I have what we call the plan to win, and I've followed that ever since I've been a head football coach. It involves 5 different ingredients in order to be successful. The first one is winning the turnover takeaway margin. And since I've been a head coach, 21 years, 3 different levels, junior college, Division II, 1 AA, and now the Division I level, and we've been +1 in turnover takeaway or more. We've won over 90% of our games. So it's something that we really emphasize every day in practice. Every day we're watching video with the guys, and they understand how important ball security is and also taking the ball away. The second component of the plan to win is being able to control the running game. Kind of the same statistical data. When we've had 1 more yard rush than our opponent, we've won over 90% of our games. So that involves having a strong running attack, but also having a defense that stops people from running the ball effectively.
Coach, I know
Special teams is the other part that we really talk about and emphasize with our guys. And then part of being disciplined is not having, we call it, Eagles don't beat the Eagles, not having any pre-snap penalties, not having any post-snap penalties. I think that's a sign of a disciplined team. And then last but not least is finishing and scoring one more point than your opponent in the fourth quarter, and that carries over to your off-season program as well.
Hey, that sounds like a great plan to win to me. And now it's been quite a whirlwind for you, I'm sure, since you were named the head coach at Georgia Southern, introduced to the media, the fan base, as the head coach at Georgia Southern. Once you get settled in Statesboro, what's going to be the first order of business as the head coach of Georgia Southern?
Well, when we get done with recruiting here in a couple of weeks, it's when we really get an opportunity to get to know the players. I get actively involved in our off-season program. I call it the championship program. That's where you build your team. We do some stuff that's kind of tough in the mornings. I'm a little bit more of, a high school coach when it comes to training in the off-season program. We'll do some competitive things with them, and it gets a chance for the players to get to know the coaches and vice versa. So that's, after recruiting gets over, right now our strength coach is going to run everything for me as far as the lifting and the running and the conditioning. But when we get done with recruiting, I like to jump in there and get heavily involved with it as well.
Rabbit of fan base, as you're going to find at any level, is the Eagles fan base. You probably already know this. Does that type of environment, Coach Fritz, intimidate you, or does it exhilarate you?
Well, it really excites me. I've really never been any place where I came in and you had a rabid fan base like they have here. It was that way when I left, because it went in some ball games, but not when I first arrived. So that's exciting to me.
Traditions can be a deterrent. They can be a draw. Clearly, with you being the coach at Southern now, they were a draw. At least I assume that. What appealed to you about that aspect of Georgia Southern, though?
Well, I've kind of come up the hard way, and I can relate to a lot of the experiences that this football program had in growing to the FCS power that it's become, and now making that transition into Division I. So I think that's neat. On my interview, our athletic director was asking me about the school bus tradition. I asked him if I needed to drive the school bus.
Yeah.
Old junior college coach, I used to drive the school bus to the games. So I like those type of traditions. I think it's a blue-collar university, and I'm a blue-collar type of guy.
I asked the people I work with here at WDUN in Gainesville some questions they might like your answers to, and the one that I heard the most was the one that I'm about to ask. Knowing the teams in the Sun Belt, being around football as long as you have, how competitive can your Eagles be right out of the gate?
Well, I think they can be competitive out of the gate. The thing we've got to do is get a level of consistency. Obviously, with that's one of the things I'm going to talk to the players about. Are we going to be the team that beat Florida? Or are we going to be the team that was 4-4 in the Southern Conference? There's quite a bit of difference between those two teams, I imagine. So, obviously, that game shows you that they can compete with, and win against a SEC team. And in order to be successful in the Sun Belt, you're going to have that kind of effort week in and week out.
There's no doubt the transition is going to be one of success. I have full faith in that, as I'm sure the Eagles fan base does. There's a bevy of talent at your school already, even more across the state when you think about high school players. And you mentioned this in your press conference when you were introduced to the media. How has recruiting been going? What's your focus? What are you telling the recruits now that the Georgia Southern program's under a new regime, if you will?
Well, just really trying to get to know them and meet them and talking to them on the telephone. We got a big group coming in this weekend. Luckily, they had a pretty good handle on recruiting before I got here, and we're just trying to do a good job of hanging on to these darn good football players. And when they come in, they visit. We're not going to change a whole lot of things. I think Coach Monken ran a disciplined program. They got a lot of great traditions here. We're going to carry on those traditions, but I want them to get an opportunity to meet me, meet the staff, and feel comfortable with us.
All right, Coach Willie Fritz, new Georgia Southern coach. I want to wrap up with a question that is totally off the subject of football. It's about the geographical location of where you will be living for hopefully a while now. We hope your tenure at Georgia Southern is long. Are you familiar with the Gnats of South Georgia? Has anyone alerted you to what it's going to be like in August when you're driving around Statesboro?
I heard that there are a couple Gnats running around here, but I look forward to that as well. Is that a good answer?
That's a fine answer. I'm glad to know that wasn't a deterrent, because sometimes having to travel down to South Georgia in the summer can be a little fearsome, if you know what I'm talking about. Coach Willie Fritz, can't thank you enough. I know that you're a busy man. Good luck in your continued recruiting over the next couple of weeks, and as you start your tenure as the head coach of Georgia Southern football, we look forward to more conversations with you, sir.
Thank you very much.
I think those Gnats could be part of Georgia Southern's football team. Talk about a good defense.
I don't know if that's the most fearsome mascot, though.
The Georgia Southern.
Yeah, the Gnats.
Have you ever driven around Southern Georgia?
A swarm of gnats, perhaps, but just I'm imagining one big plush
gnat.
Yeah, gnat. It does not strike fear in my heart.
The Georgia Southern Gnats.
Yeah.
I don't know. When I think of a gnat, I think constant pressure. I think quickness. I think willingness.
Tenacity.
Tenacity, right? I think willingness to put it all on the line. I mean, they die. They die in mass on your windshield. They're not just on your windshield hanging out. They're on your windshield because you drove through them and they couldn't go anywhere else. Because they go around.
I don't know how many college football players are willing to lay their lives down on the field any given day.
That's the spirit of football. Just ask Richard Sherman. It's the way it's supposed to be played. You're going to war. All right, folks. When we come back, we've got a pretty big giveaway. Giving away 4 Gwinnett Gladiators tickets and a parking pass. Also, interesting report came out today about the upcoming Winter Olympics. We're going to dive into it. Come on back and join us. This is Game On WDUN.